Hello everyone, welcome back to class. My name is Lara, as you already know. For those of you that are just seeing my channel for the first time, do well to subscribe, like and comment. The moment you like and comment on my video, it sends it out so that others will also see the video. Help me make this video reach its target audience. So in today's tutorial, we are going to be discussing a particular question. So let's just imagine that this is one of the questions, random question asked in literature. And you know that in my previous video, if you're yet to watch my previous videos on the compulsory paragraph, please do well to watch it. In my previous videos, I just itemized the compulsory paragraph. So now we're going to be using this question as an example, or so that by the end of this lesson, you will be able to answer, okay, all of your pending questions would have been answered. So without further ado, let's get right into the tutorial. So the question is, examine the role of Sadiku to the development of the plot. If you look at this question, the first thing that would come to your mind will not be theme, right? Because here, there's nothing that has to do with theme, right? But like I said in the previous tutorial, theme is compulsory regardless of the question, okay? So even if you are asked a question of theme, you still start with theme. That's how it is in literature. You still start with theme. So your first paragraph must be theme. However, I forgot to mention this in my last video. Let's say you started, you just started and then you remembered. And by the time you remembered that you did not put theme, or you did not write on the theme, or you did not write on the character description, which is compulsory, and remember that instead of you to cancel it out, and because there are no much space in the leaflet, the booklet that you'll be given. So instead of you to cancel it out, you can still write it. In fact, as a matter of fact, it can be your last paragraph. It can be your third paragraph. That is if you had forgotten, because the new Waec booklet does not give you room to cancel. So that means that you have itemized whatever you want to write. Isn't that you will have written a page or one page and a half, and then you start cancelling. Don't do that. There is no space for you to continue. So the first thing that you need to do is look at the question, itemize your point, put your point down, then you start to develop it. Now, peradventure you forget that you're supposed to put 2 compulsory paragraphs, and then you had written, in fact, you had written like 4 paragraphs. You can still, it's better than not putting it at all. What I say, it is better than not putting it at all. So even if you remembered on the 5th paragraph, please make your 5th paragraph, make it theme. Make sure you write on the theme. So that is that about that. So don't say, oh, I forgot saying, and I cannot cancel, and there's nothing I can do. There's something you can do, my dear. 3 lines is okay. Even though you use all the squeeze 3 lines and put your thing. It's important because as examiners, we're expected to read everything, mark everything. So if the thing is not even in the first paragraph, you will still not be penalized in as much as you ended up writing about the thing. That's what we want to see. Do you understand? So let's get right to the question of today. Examine the role of Sadiku to the development of the plot. So, as a good literature in English student now, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to look at the question, right? We have the role of who. We have the character's name, and the character's name is who? Sadiku. Good. That means that what? That means automatically what? You are writing character description. So, in fact, the first thing that you need to do is P2 character description of Sadiku, so that you don't forget you have used your pencil to write it down. Now, examine the role of Sadiku. So you are talking about the roles. That will come after your compulsory paragraph. You are describing Sadiku, which is your second paragraph. Then, now let me tell you something. This kind of question, it doesn't come every year, but just in case you see it, I want to beseech you. The question might be very, very simple, right? And you feel like, oh, okay. But you see this thing. This plot. Whenever you see questions like this, and you feel that you can answer it, make your compulsory paragraphs 3. I'll break it down. You're supposed to write the first compulsory paragraph, which is the theme, right? And the theme will be what? The theme can also be tradition. Because we know that everything that has to do with Sadiku is centered around tradition, right? So you talk about tradition and just pick like 1 or 2, instances of tradition that is linked with Sadiku. All right. Now the second paragraph, we have underlined it. we are going to give a character description of who? Sadiku. That's your second compulsory paragraph. Now, looking at this question is very tricky because there might be a year that you go and then realize that this thing is not there, that it's not a compulsory paragraph. There might be another year you will go and then you will see that definition of this is important. So I always tell my students, play safe. So if you are under my tutelage, if you are watching my video and you come across this question, I beg you in the name of anything that you hold dear, even it's better that you put it and they will not mark it. You will not be penalized. So just what? Play safe. You can call me Madam Play Safe. Just play safe. Don't take chances. When you see plot, make sure to define plot. Oftentimes, let me tell you, often because we might not even get there. Oftentimes, this plot is usually in poetry, under poetry, questions under poetry. You will see this plot. Oftentimes, you'll see this under poetry. Yes. So when you get to that, when you see it, just remember, play safe. And you know the definition of plot. If you don't know it, please go and read definition of plot. Just know it for knowing sake. So that when the time comes for you to play safe, you will play safe. Do you understand? So that is why I wrote my third paragraph as definition of plot. Like I said, you might not find it under drama. You might not find it under prose. You may find it under poetry. But wherever you find it, I beg you in the name of Jesus, I beg you in the name of Allah, define it. Give us, let us, tell us, sorry, we don't mind, Give us, whether we are going to need it or not, we don't even know, even if we don't know. So it's when we get there that we now see that, we are going to need it too. This person did not write it too. To avoid So now, when you see a question like this, it's cheap, answer, because you already have 3 compulsory paragraphs. Imagine you defining plot, and when you define plot, don't just end it there. When you define plot, just give a short synopsis of the plot. Say, after defining plot, sequential arrangement of events, Now, when you define it, please get the full definition. When you define it, you will now go ahead again, just in 2 or 3 sentences, centered around Baruka, who wants a change, but wants it gradually, and does not want tradition to be forgotten. Against Lakunle, who feels that everything that has to do with tradition is barbaric, and wants every aspect of tradition in Ilujile to be replaced with civilization, with modernity. You have given us what we want. So it's not just about you defining plot, it's about you giving us a short synopsis. And it's the same too if the question is under poetry and you see plot. After defining the plot, just give us a short summary of what the poem is all about. If it's under prose, give us a short summary on what the plot is. 2-3 sentences, you are good. That's all. So now imagine that you have 3 compulsory paragraphs, like you have written that, and you're like, last, at least you have 12 marks waiting, and you've not even started answering the question. You can see that it's actually very, very easy. So now, after you're done with that, you now start what the question is asking you to do. That you should examine the role of Sadiku, which you have not even started. Alright, so your 4th paragraph will now be, in the first row, Sadiku serves as a matchmaker. In fact, if you don't remember anything about Sadiku, you have to remember the fact that she's a matchmaker. It's like that role is made from heaven. She wears it like a bada. She's the one that goes to bring, if her husband, Baruka, as much as greets a maiden more than necessary. Let's say Baruka sees a maiden now and says, "Oh, good morning. Good morning, did you sleep well? How is your mom? I'm your dad. How is his leg? Is he?" Our lady here, Sadiku, would go behind Baruka and go behind Baruka to meet that particular lady to say, "Oh, Baruka likes you," and woo that lady for Baruka. So that is her role. She matchmakes. And Baruka said it himself that if he so much greets a lady more than necessary, Baruka Sadiku would go ahead to woo that lady. So when you say matchmake, that she is a matchmaker, that is your point. Remember I said something about PEA. So if you say she is a matchmaker, that is your point. Now you don't just stop at her being a matchmaker. Convince the examiner that is marking your script that you know what you are saying. They are not just saying it. That is when you now say, okay, that this is evidence, your evidence, okay? This is evidence about Baruka's dialogue with Sidi on what Sadiku does. That Sadiku, that if he, Baruka, as much as talk to a lady or greet a lady more than usual, but Sadiku would go behind him. So Baruka was the one that said it while speaking with Sidi in his room. Okay, so that is your evidence and that is your analysis. And of course, another evidence that shows that Sadiku is a matchmaker is her going to woo Sidi for Baruka. Remember where she went to ask this for supper to come, to have supper, and then she starts to tell or start to cajole Sidi that and she starts to cajole Sidi that, oh, if Sidi should marry Baruka, Sidi is going to be the last wife, and the last wife automatically becomes the first wife of the new king, and being the first wife comes with prestige. Do you understand? So those are your evidences and analysis. Remember I said that your evidence will move to your analysis. So you have given points and you tell us where it is saying and explain the thing. If there are more than one or two, if there are more than one evidences, please include it in, but don't let it be too lengthy because you have a lot to write. So another thing is that do not give too much priority to a paragraph as against at the expense of the other paragraphs. In the sense that, oh, there are, let's say, Sadiku is a matchmaker. There are like 5 instances, 5 evidences that shows that Sadiku is a matchmaker. You really don't need to write all the 5 instances because by the time you are done writing it, note that you're working with time, yeah, and you're working with space. Your booklet is very, very okay. So you are not expected to give those 5 instances. Just give us 2 or 3 and move to the next because that's not the only question you're answering. That's just like one of the rows. So you don't want to dwell on that as though you don't have other things to write on other rows. Do we understand? Okay, let's go to paragraph 5. Now imagine now that after writing this now, you have met the criteria of the 5-point paragraph that Waec is expecting of you. But you know we have to play safe, right? So we'll not stop at paragraph 5. I hope you remember. Okay, so paragraph 5, that's your rule number 2 because if you have just written all this, let's say you've written 3 compulsory paragraphs and you've not even answered the question, it's better to be on the safe side to write at least 3 or 4 of the rows that tackle the question. Do we understand? Paragraph 5, you're talking about role number 2, okay? So you're talking about another role of Sadiku, okay? Another role of Sadiku to the development of the plot is she has a loose tongue. She is loquacious. It's too much. You know, too much of everything is bad. It's the same with Sadiku. When you talk too much, you don't know when you overtalk. She does not know how to keep a secret. She's just, there's not, whatever you don't want out there, don't tell it to Sadiku. Okay? And of course, you now go to your, she has a loose tongue or she's loquacious. That's your point. You will now go to the evidence, which will lead you to your analysis. And you give us evidence that shows that she's what? She's loose tongue. Right? You know the evidence, right? Paragraph 6, that's another rule. Then you go to she's a useful tool in the hands of Baruka, and you can tell that she's manipulated by Baruka, right? You can say she's manipulated by Baruka or whatever English that still talks about the same thing, okay? Because how would your husband tells you something as serious as him losing his potency and something you're supposed to take to your grave? Being the first wife should come with common sense. Now, this thing that I said now, this word that I said now, common sense, just made me realize that, remember that when you're answering your questions in literature, please set all emotions aside. If you want to use some particular words, okay, some hurtful words, make sure that you water it down. So you don't go ahead to say words like stupid, you don't go ahead to say words like idiot, you understand, words like that. Instead of you to say stupid, you just say gullible. Alright, so it's just to be on the safe side. I don't think you'll be penalized for it, but it's just good to be on the safe side because rules changes every year and examiners don't get to know the new rules until after you've written the exam and it's time to go for coordination. That is when we'll now see that, oh, so these are the rules that binds this exam, which must be followed even though you had already done or you had already written the examination. So please, let's play safe. Now, Baruka had already seen here, has a loose tongue. Yeah, Baruka already know that she has this flaw. She has this character flaw that her mouth is running, and so he used it against her. Not even that if you should say something like that, since CD had rejected his offer to dinner, CD would definitely come, knowing fully well that he is already impotent. And he knows that his wife, Sadiku, will go and spread the good news that the body is impotent. Okay? By telling Sadiku that he is impotent. And he feigned it so much that it's believable. Okay? Sadiku believed it both line and sinker. So the next rule, all of this is just to play safe. All from here down is to play safe. Okay, so the next is deceptive. Sadiku is deceptive in nature. Okay, because while she was with Baruka, she pretended like she behaves like the loving wife. Very very concerned about Baruka's plight. Okay, and showing concern and the rest. Meanwhile, behind Baruka, she sticks to dancing. She starts to dance. She didn't even dance in an enclosed place. She went to, like a square, and she started to brag about the power of women, using herself as an example. That she saw the end of Baruka's father, Okiki, because Sadiko was the last wife, right, of Okiki before Okiki passed on, and now she is the first wife of Baruka. And I start to glory in her strength that, oh, she saw the end of two generations. She saw the end of Okiki, and now she is seeing the end, and now she's seeing the end of Baruka. And she's like, take warning, my master, who squat you in the end. Just giving the power and the strength to women. Okay, to say that women are strong enough to bring a man down, just as Baruka had been brought down. And she started dancing. It was that noise that CD heard, comes out and made the inquiry. Normal. Even if you want to, I think you say, don't worry, my child, I'm just happy. Don't worry, let me rejoice in peace. She went ahead to say, oh, Baruka is already impotent. And CD said, oh, that's fine. Now that I know my words, I've seen my pictures in the magazine. Let me go and flaunt to Baruka, because she also believed it that Baruka would not be able to touch her, so she wants to go and flaunt like, oh, look at what you're missing. Okay, and two gullible characters. She in turn goes to the palace, and of course you know how that ended, right? Okay, so now this is another tricky part, and that is significance. Now this is mostly common in poetry, so I'm going to get to that part. I'm not able to treat all the, but I will sure, focus on paper two. I'll surely focus on questions, maybe 2 or 3 questions on drama, prose, and poetry, so that at least you know how you're expected to answer each of the genres of literature. Okay, so this significance. Now, when you talk about roles of a character, you have to end it with a significance. Significance in the sense that you talked about different roles, how that this character contribute to the development of the play. Like now, the significance is, who does this character represent? What is that particular thing that we can see that this character represents, right? So if you've talked about all of these roles, and we are dealing with Sadiku here, right? So our significance here talks about the degree of literacy in Ilujine. We talked about roles, right? So because what should come to your mind is, when you're talking about a particular character, why did this author or playwright make use of this character? So that's the question you should come when you talk about that. When you ask yourself that question, you will get this. You will reach this conclusion: significance. Who does this character represent? What does this character represent? Beyond all of this, she being a this, she being a that. Beyond this, what can we say? What is that one thing that we say that this character represents? And it is the degree of literacy. We want to pass across the level of literacy in Ilujinle. And Sadiku is not an exception. Sadiku does not know anything that has to do with modernization. At least Baruka still knows. Okay, he still knows. He knows that modernity is good, but he does not want it to overshadow or to overpower um, tradition, because if you should allow all of these things that Lakunle is asking, for in Ilujinde, his role, his essence as the ballet would be useless. So imagine Lakunle comes and say, okay, someone comes, okay, so the railway people comes, and then there's a railway that passes through Ilujinle. Everybody that passes through that path, that route, would see Ilujinle. Baruka would not have any say on that railway because he doesn't know anything about it. If another person comes, okay, and brings another form of modernity, if Baruka doesn't know anything about it, they won't come to him. And so the people or the villagers' reliance on him, which gives him that respect, that prestige, will not be there, even though he knows. Sadiku does not even want anything. So with Sadiku, we can see, because everything that Baruka was telling Sadiku, it was like sis kabash. It wasn't making any sense, And there was a point he said everything is just everything is big grammar for you, not verbatim, And there's a point where there are instances where Sadiku complained about Lakunle's big grammars, which she doesn't understand, and even Lakunle said it himself. Okay, so this just shows the degree of literacy that not many of them in Ilujinle are exposed to civilization, to modernity, and Sadiku is because she had carried the roles, all of those. So even when Lakunle was trying to tell City not to look at or not to listen to what Sadiku is saying, and Sadiku realized that City is already swaying to what Lakunle is saying. Sadiku tries to tell him, oh, no, see, if you this, if you that, if you, so that is it. That is who she represents. Beyond all of our roles, Wole Soyinka, the playwright, decided to add that character so that the level of literacy or the degree of illiteracy can be seen in Ilujinle. Okay, so now, like I said, if you see any question that has to do with a role, please just put the significance. But most times you will see the question, this particular question, under poetry. But whenever you see it, this is 3 marks, 3 compulsory paragraphs. You have like 12 marks already without sweat. So imagine that it's just 2 rules that you can remember, or it's just 3 rules or 3 points that you can remember. You just put the 3 points, and that's it. You have your score. Very easy, very mindful, very simple, very easy, very demure. So I'll see you in my next tutorial. If you find this video helpful, do well to share it. Please like this video. Comment on it. Like and comment. Nothing will happen to you if you like and comment. I cannot be having like 1,000 views and I'm having like 50 likes. It's not nice. Now people should. That's why I'm sweating. That's why I'm sweating. People, encourage me. I should not drop another video again. Maybe this teaching is not my calling. It's a lie. Even if it's just one person that will watch this video, even if I'm doing all this sorting because of one person, I will come back